The biased press has betrayed America. After election, America should return the favor. That's our message in tonight's preamble. Aside from Newsmax TV and a few other networks, the three-pronged Biden family corruption scandal has received virtually no coverage. I, your liberty-loving Latino, Sean, Greg, Grant, others on this network have worked diligently to determine the legitimacy of that story. And once we did, we sought to inform our audiences about what we found. Now, a few others outside of Newsmax have also been doing some pretty good work. Sinclair Broadcasting is a group of about 200 stations around the country. They, in stark contrast with ABC, NBC, CBS, CNN, the New York Times, the Washington Post, Sinclair mandates that their stations do news without bias or favor. James Rosen is one of their top reporters. He dropped this bombshell yesterday.
2019, the FBI opened up a criminal investigation into Hunter Biden and his associates that is focused on allegations of money laundering and remains open and active today.
They do list me as a material witness within the entire FBI on their computer systems, and it was a very cooperative, deep dive into all the facts across that time period.
In connection with what were you listed as a material witness?
In connection with the discussion of the Biden family, CFC, and other operations around the world involving other countries.
CEFC is the Chinese energy giant, effectively an arm of the government and the Communist Party.
Working with the Communist Party, eh, Democrats? So the FBI has been investigating Hunter Biden for money laundering since 2019. Now, this begs several questions. Who was paying Hunter Biden the money for him to launder? Was it Ukraine? Was it Russia? Was it our enemy, Communist China? We'd like to know. And if Hunter Biden is under investigation for money laundering, who was he laundering money for? In other words, who was getting the foreign money after Beijing Biden's son laundered it? Could that money have gone to the, quote, big guy? Remember, we wouldn't have known any of this if it were not for Rudy Giuliani and Bernie Kerik. They came forward on this network and revealed what they found on Hunter Biden's laptop. Since then, Bernie and Rudy have been talking to other legitimate news organizations like OAN. Here are more revelations revealed by Rudy on the laptop prong of this three-pronged Biden family scandal.
One American News has procured a copy of the now infamous Hunter Biden hard drive, wherein thousands of emails and voice recordings prove that Joe Biden used his own drug addict son Hunter to be his personal bagman. I sat down with Rudy Giuliani in New York to retrieve the drive so that OAN might start dissecting its contents.
Here's a copy.
And this is to clarify, there are no photos on this hard drive.
The photos have been taken off.
Very good.
There's a little help. And the photos have been taken off. Most of them are horrible. They're pornographic and disgusting. Significant number of photos of underage girls. And the underage girls.
This is something we looked over last week.
And there is one girl in particular that he seems to have an obsession with. You'll see on the drive some of his relatives complaining that he creates an unsafe environment for the kids. So here's my question. When the FBI got this almost a year ago, and they read this, why didn't they react to it the way I did?
That is a fantastic question that Americans deserve an answer to. Was the FBI director and others in FBI leadership willing to leave children in danger simply to keep bad news for the Bidens from coming out? Remember, upon seeing the material on that laptop, Bernie and Rudy, they said they had reasonable suspicion of a crime against children. They were compelled to turn over that evidence to the authorities. Why didn't Christopher Wray's FBI act? And that leads us back to the basket of biased press. The majority of the so-called news organizations out there have not covered the growing Biden scandal. To the contrary, they've actively worked to cover it up. The founders of this nation recognized how important a free and vibrant press is to the preservation of liberty and holding elected leaders accountable. The majority of the press has failed in their First Amendment responsibility to the United States and her citizens. They are no longer dedicated journalists. Instead, they are dedicated Democrats. They have sacrificed the truth. They have sacrificed their own credibility and perhaps our nation just to defeat a political candidate they don't like. The business of news and information is a competitive one, thanks to networks like this. You, As the watching public, you have the power, and I'm asking you to use it. First, get out there and vote to make the underhanded and dishonest efforts of the dedicated Democrats and the press, make those efforts be in vain. Next, vote with your remote. Turn them off. And keep it right here on Newsmax TV.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.